I had no idea what was coming, not a clue. The night had started just like any other. A quiet dinner at home with Chloe. It was supposed to be a casual thing. I was already dreading the week ahead, full of meetings and work, but tonight was supposed to be different. It was supposed to be a break from all that. Chloe had slipped into the emerald gown I bought her last New Year's Eve, the one that always made her glow. It hugged her perfectly, a little too perfectly, as if she was trying to show off to me. But I didn't think anything of it. I poured us both glasses of wine, and we sat at the dining table, making small talk as usual. I hadn't noticed anything was off until she took a long sip of her wine, her eyes glinting with some unreadable emotion. I could tell she was waiting for something, a reaction maybe, but I didn't know what for. "Marcus," she said, setting her glass down and looking at me like she was about to deliver some grand revelation. "There's something I've been meaning to tell you." I froze. My heart skipped. I wasn't sure why, but I felt the shift in the air between us, that subtle change that always comes before a storm. I raised an eyebrow, my hand still holding the stem of my wine glass, watching her. She was calm, almost too calm. Her eyes locked with mine as if she were daring me to say something, to interrupt her. But I didn't. "I've been seeing someone," she continued, her voice casual, almost too casual. "For months now." I put my wine glass down, trying to keep my face neutral. I was about to ask her who, to pry. But the words caught in my throat. I knew. I already knew. "Victor," she added, her voice full of a strange satisfaction, as if it were some kind of punchline. The name hit me like a freight train. Victor. I should have seen it. He was the one person I had always trusted, my co-developer, my longtime friend. Her smile grew. She looked at me, expecting rage, maybe tears, a reaction, something that would make her feel like she had power over me. But instead, I remained calm. Too calm, maybe. "I know what you're thinking," she went on, now leaning back in her chair with a smug expression on her face. "You probably thought I wouldn't do it. You always thought I was the one who would never—" She trailed off, her eyes studying me. "But I did. I did it. I couldn't believe it. It felt like the world had stopped for a moment. But then, slowly, I let a smile creep onto my face. I wasn't angry, I wasn't furious, I wasn't sad. I was just calm. So calm that it seemed to unsettle her. "Do you think I didn't know?" I asked, my voice almost a whisper. "Do you think I didn't see it coming?" Chloe blinked, her smile faltering for a split second. "What are you talking about?" she asked, suddenly unsure. I took a deep breath and leaned forward. "I'm not angry, Chloe, but I need you to understand something." I reached for my phone and unlocked it. My thumb swiped across the screen, and I found the document I needed. I slid it across the table toward her, and she looked down at it, confused. "Victor doesn't realize this yet," I said, "but everything we built together, all of it, the empire, the company, the real estate portfolio, it's all mine now. Every single asset." Her face turned white as she picked up the paper, reading through the details, the legal language, the numbers, the contracts. She looked up at me, eyes wide with disbelief. What do you mean?" "You and Victor," I said, leaning back in my chair, watching her unravel. "I've already taken care of everything. The company, the investments, the properties. They all belong to me. Victor signed away his shares. You thought this was a game? That you could do this to me? Well, I've already set things in motion. It's done." The words hung in the air. Chloe's face was pale now, her mouth slightly open as if she was still trying to process what I had just said. It wasn't the furious outburst she had been expecting. It wasn't a tearful confession. It was just simple. Business, cold and calculated. "I don't need to get angry or throw things," I said, my voice steady. "I just needed you to know. And there's one more thing." Chloe blinked, her hands shaking as she placed the document back on the table. "What?" "Isabel," I said, leaning forward. "Victor's wife, Isabel, is now under my protection. I'm making sure she's taken care of. The divorce papers are already in motion. I'll make sure she's safe, secure. You?" I let the words trail off. "You're on your own." For the first time, her smug expression faltered completely. Her face twisted from a proud grin to something closer to panic. She opened her mouth to say something, but no words came out. I stood up slowly, looking down at her. "I'm done, Chloe. Don't bother calling me again." I walked away, leaving her there, speechless, the silence between us more deafening than any argument we could have had. As I left the room, I couldn't help but feel that strange sense of calm wash over me. This was the moment I had planned for, and now it was done. This was the end of the game, and I had won. It started small. A little odd, maybe, but I wasn't suspicious at first. Chloe had always been one to keep her things close to her chest. But then there were those small, strange moments. Her phone, for one. The way she locked it every time I entered the room. It was subtle, but I noticed. I didn't say anything. I didn't want to seem paranoid. She had been busy with work, and I figured it was just that. But then it escalated. I overheard her one evening, speaking in hushed tones on the phone, laughing too hard at something someone had said. When I asked her about it, she just waved it off with a distracted, "Oh, just Dana." Dana? I had never met Dana. She never mentioned her before, and suddenly she was everything. The next red flag came the weekend she went away for an art retreat with Dana. The timing struck me as odd. I had noticed Chloe's increasing absence, those weekend trips that never seemed to have a clear purpose or a solid explanation. When I questioned her, she gave me vague answers. It wasn't like her. Then one night I walked into our study. Chloe had left her laptop open. I didn't plan on snooping, but the window was open. The cursor was hovering over a conversation that hadn't been minimized, just paused. A few lines of text caught my eye. "You know Marcus would never understand. He's too dull, too predictable. Don't worry, babe. He doesn't have a clue. We'll be fine." It hit me like a sucker punch. I couldn't breathe. There it was. The betrayal. The affair I had suspected but never dared confront. Chloe and Victor, my co-developer, my friend, my business partner. It wasn't just a passing fling. It was months, maybe longer. The way they spoke about me was chilling, but I didn't react. I should have felt something. Rage, humiliation, sadness. But instead, all I felt was clarity. Cold clarity. I had been blindsided, sure, but I wasn't going to let emotion cloud my judgment. Chloe thought she could break me, but I wasn't some fragile man to be shattered by her infidelity. I closed the laptop slowly, carefully. I didn't even feel the need to confront her yet. Instead, I grabbed my phone and dialed my lawyer. I knew what had to be done. Victor wasn't just my friend. He was a business partner, and this affair could jeopardize everything we had built. It wasn't just betrayal in the personal realm. It was financial. It was strategic. I met with my legal team the next morning. They were efficient. Their attention to detail unmatched. I explained the situation without emotion. This wasn't about revenge, at least not yet. It was about securing my future, our future. I needed to know how to dismantle Victor's hold on the company without him realizing a thing. The lawyers dug into Victor's finances. They found what I had suspected all along. Victor had been reckless with permits, indulging in shady backdoor deals to funnel money into projects without proper oversight. Forged documents, misappropriated funds. Victor was a ticking time bomb waiting to explode, and I was going to make sure I controlled the fallout. I wasn't angry. I didn't need to be. This was just business. The plan started to take shape. Victor had signed over the rights to our latest development project in a panic over a bad deal. He had no idea I was pulling the strings, orchestrating every move with the precision of a corporate raider. Chloe thought she was winning. She thought I was just the clueless husband. But I was already steps ahead. I would use this opportunity to pull everything from under Victor's feet. When I was done, he wouldn't just lose the business. He'd lose everything. And Isabel, Victor's wife, had no idea what was coming. I wasn't planning on telling her yet, but she was going to be my ally. As much as it hurt to admit it, she was the key to taking Victor down completely. When the time came, she would help me execute the final blow. But all of this, I had to do quietly, strategically. Chloe had made her move. Now it was my turn. I wasn't going to give her the satisfaction of a confrontation. No, I was going to wait. Let her think she was winning. Let her gloat. Let her believe that Victor was her prize. All the while, I was dismantling everything they thought they controlled. By the time I was done, Chloe wouldn't just lose her lover. She'd lose everything, and I would be the one holding the cards. It was late afternoon when Isabel showed up at my office. She didn't call ahead, didn't warn me, but somehow I knew it was coming. The tension in the air between us had been building for days, and I knew she was on the brink of making a move. Isabel wasn't the type to ask for help. She was graceful, composed, everything I had once admired in her. But now, there was something different in her eyes, a kind of quiet desperation. She walked in, her movements deliberate, like she was trying to maintain control of a situation that was slipping out of her hands. She closed the door softly behind her, her heels clicking against the hardwood floor. "Marcus," she began, her voice low but steady. "I think we need to talk." I gestured toward the chair across from my desk. "Please, have a seat. What's going on?" She didn't sit immediately. Instead, she stood there for a moment, looking at me, as if trying to gauge whether she could trust me. She was still wearing the elegant, understated outfits she always wore, her hair perfectly styled, but her posture was different, slightly hunched, almost as though she was bracing for impact. Finally, she sat down, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. "I have something to show you," she said, pulling a manila envelope from her bag. She slid it across the desk to me, her fingers trembling just slightly. I picked it up, opening it carefully. Inside were a series of photographs, Victor and Chloe, together, in various settings. A dinner, a hotel lobby, and the most damning of all, them at the same resort we had visited together last year. Victor's arm wrapped around her waist. They weren't just friends, they were lovers, and the evidence was right in front of me. I didn't flinch. I didn't react. It was exactly what I had suspected, but seeing it laid out in black and white made it real. Isabel was watching me closely, waiting for some kind of reaction. "Do you believe me now?" she asked quietly. I looked up at her, the realization settling in. I had spent the past few weeks methodically dismantling Victor's empire, his trust in me eroding every day as I set the pieces in motion. But now, with Isabel sitting across from me, everything felt different. This wasn't just about business anymore. This was personal. I had been betrayed by the two people I trusted most in the world. "I believe you," I said calmly, setting the photos aside. "But I need more than just pictures. I need evidence, something I can use." Isabel nodded, pulling out a folder from her bag. She opened it slowly, revealing more documents, bank records, transaction histories, and signed contracts. "Victor's been making deals under the table," she explained, "laundering money, hiding assets. I've suspected it for a long time, but I didn't have the proof, until now." I leaned in, scanning the documents. This was exactly what I needed. Victor's reckless financial missteps, the kind of mistakes that could bring everything crashing down. "Why now?" I asked, looking up at her. "Why come to me? Why not take him down yourself?" Her eyes hardened for a moment, and she let out a small, bitter laugh. "Because I'm tired of being invisible," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "Victor's been running his game for years, treating me like I'm just his accessory. I've been quiet, I've let it happen, but not anymore. I want him to pay for what he's done. To me, to you." I paused for a moment, considering her words. Isabel wasn't coming to me out of kindness, or even a desire for revenge. She was coming to me because we both had something to gain by taking Victor down. "You realize what this means, right?" I asked, my voice cold. "This isn't just a personal vendetta. This is going to cost us everything." Isabel nodded. "I know, but I've already lost so much. What's left?" I stared at her for a moment, trying to read her face. It wasn't just betrayal that had brought her here. It was something deeper, something I recognized in myself, a desire to take back control, to reclaim what had been taken from us. "All right," I said finally, my mind already working through the logistics of it. "We'll do this together, but it has to be perfect. We can't afford mistakes." Isabel nodded again, her face hardening with resolve. "Agreed." We sat in silence for a few moments, the weight of what we were about to do settling between us. It wasn't just about Chloe and Victor anymore. It was about us taking back control of our lives. And in that moment, I realized that this alliance, forged in betrayal, was the only thing left that could help us both. "We start tonight," I said, my voice firm. "And we don't stop until everything is in our hands." Isabel gave a small nod, and for the first time since this entire mess started, I felt like I was finally on the winning side. We both stood, and she gathered her things. Before she left, she turned to me. "I won't let him get away with this, Marcus," she said, her voice steady. "Not again." "Neither will I," I replied, my mind already racing through the next steps. This wasn't just a revenge plot anymore. This was the beginning of the end for both Chloe and Victor. The game had shifted, and now it was time to make my move. The trap was set. I had Victor exactly where I wanted him, distracted and overconfident, blinded by his affair with Chloe. He thought everything was in his hands. What he didn't know was that the pieces I'd been moving were already locked in place. Now, it was just a matter of watching him sign away his future. Victor had always been a bit too sure of himself, a bit too comfortable in his power. But now, as we sat across the table from each other in my office, he was on the verge of making the biggest mistake of his career. "Marcus, this resort project, it's huge," he said, leaning forward with his typical charm, his eyes glinting with excitement. "We could double our profits with this expansion. You have to see the potential in it." I didn't respond immediately. Instead, I studied him, watching his eagerness, his lack of concern for the fine details. He was so wrapped up in the thought of making more money that he didn't even realize the document in front of him would be his undoing. The contracts were written in legalese, designed to look like the standard paperwork for the expansion. But I had already made the changes I needed. He didn't know it yet, but this was the final step in taking everything from him. I pushed the papers closer to him, my calm demeanor hiding the satisfaction that simmered beneath. "I see the potential, Victor. I've always trusted you with these projects, but we need to move fast. We can't afford to waste time, not with something this big." He didn't hesitate. "I agree," he said, grabbing the pen. "Let's sign it. We don't want anyone else jumping on this." I watched him sign the papers without even reading them, his mind elsewhere. Chloe, I knew, was always on his mind now. He had no idea he was signing away his control, his stake in everything we had built together, the empire that was once his, now slipping through his fingers. "Thanks, Marcus," he said, flashing me a grin after he signed. "I knew I could count on you to make this happen." I leaned back in my chair, smiling coolly. "Of course, we're partners, Victor." He got up to leave, not a care in the world. He was too busy fantasizing about the resort to understand that the real expansion was happening behind his back. I was now the sole owner of the entire project, all of it, Victor's business, his reputation, and the empire we'd built. He was out, without even realizing it. As he left, I let the smile fade from my lips. This was only the first strike. There was still more to be done. But for now, the game had shifted in my favor. I couldn't help but think of Chloe. She had no idea that everything she thought she was winning, every moment with Victor, every secret she believed was hers, was crumbling around her. I hadn't told her yet. I hadn't let on that I knew about the affair, about the betrayal. She still thought she was the one calling the shots, but she was wrong. Later that night, I went home, my movements deliberate, as though nothing had changed. Chloe was already there, waiting. She didn't know it yet, but the conversation I had planned for her would destroy everything she thought she knew. Isabel, meanwhile, had moved into my guest house, and we continued to work in silence. She wasn't just a partner in this. She was my closest ally. There was no room for emotion in this, only cold, calculated moves. The final move, though, would come after the fallout. Victor wouldn't know what hit him. He would lose everything, and Chloe too. The betrayal would be complete, and they'd both be left with nothing. For now, I maintained the facade of a doting husband, playing my part to perfection. Chloe still thought she was winning, but she hadn't seen the storm that was coming. She hadn't seen how easily I was dismantling everything she'd built with Victor. The first strike had landed. Now, the next phase of the plan was set into motion. It wasn't over yet. It had only just begun. The confrontation with Chloe was inevitable. I knew it was coming the moment she'd realized what I had done. The truth hit her like a freight train. Her life was no longer under her control. But what happened next was something I couldn't have predicted. It started with a call, a simple message that set the stage for everything to come. I had been waiting for her to confront me, and sure enough, Chloe stormed into the house, her face flushed with fury. Her usually calm demeanor was replaced with a frantic energy. She was panicked. This wasn't just about the affair anymore. This was about power. "You think you can freeze me out?" she hissed, her hands shaking with rage. "I'm not some pet you can control, Marcus. You think you've won, but you've just begun to lose everything." She threw herself onto the couch, eyes wild, hands trembling as she spoke. Her words, while venomous, didn't faze me. I had already planned my counterattack. I was prepared for this moment, for this exact kind of chaos. It was exactly what I needed. It wasn't just about ending the marriage anymore. It was about making sure she was left with nothing. Chloe's eyes widened when I sat across from her, opening a folder I'd kept hidden from her, the very folder that would dismantle her completely. It was a carefully organized dossier, one I had spent weeks compiling, filled with evidence of every affair, every lie, every betrayal, photos, receipts, recorded conversations, all the things she thought she could get away with. Her face went pale when she realized what I had in my hands. "Chloe," I said, my voice icy but composed. "I know everything. Every little secret you've been hiding. You thought I wouldn't find out, but I did." I flipped through the papers, laying out the incriminating evidence one by one. "Here's a picture of you with Victor in that hotel lobby, and here are the receipts for the getaway you two took. How about these text messages? Dull and clueless Marcus? That's how you describe me?" She tried to interrupt, to lash out, but I held up a hand, silencing her. "No, Chloe, you're not in control anymore. You thought I'd be shattered. You thought I'd fall apart, but I'm not going to react the way you expected." She narrowed her eyes, her lips curling into a bitter smile. "You think this will destroy me? You think I care about you, Marcus? You've always been so predictable. You were never enough for me, and you never will be." She was trying to provoke me. She always did. But I remained calm, unshaken, as I continued to lay out the proof of her deceit. "You never truly owned anything in our life together," I said, my voice cutting through her arrogance like a knife. "Not the house, not the car, not the business. You think Victor and I built this empire together, but it was always mine. I gave you everything, and what did I get in return? Lies. Infidelity." Chloe's face contorted, the confident mask slipping. Her breath caught in her throat as she stood, her voice shaking with a mixture of disbelief and rage. "You think you've won, Marcus? You think you've taken everything from me? You have no idea what I've done behind your back. You have no idea how many times I've—" "Save it," I interrupted, standing up. I couldn't let her derail this moment, couldn't let her spin the narrative. "You've lost, Chloe. Everything. Your secret life, your lover, your perks. You've been playing a game with no rules, but I made my own rules. And now you're out. Just like Victor." I left her standing there, the anger in her eyes barely masked by the shock of what I'd just said. She stood frozen for a moment, trying to comprehend the finality in my words. "Where are you going?" she spat as I turned toward the door. "Out," I said, my tone final. "You've already made your decision. Now, I'm making mine." The door slammed behind me as I left her in that cold, empty house, her empire crumbling in front of her. But as I walked away, I knew this wasn't over, not by a long shot. Chloe wouldn't go down without a fight. She'd try to hurt me in ways I hadn't yet seen. But I was ready. This war was far from over. It had only just begun. The night Chloe realized I had cut her off from everything was only the beginning. It wasn't enough for her to lose everything silently. No, she had to fight back. And she was about to do so in the most public way possible. It started with an alert from my home security system. A notification pinged on my phone at 1:03 a.m., followed by another a few minutes later. I opened the feed, and there she was, Chloe, standing outside the gates of my estate, holding up her phone as if she were filming some sort of dramatic monologue. I clicked the video feed open, watching in silence as she stared into the camera, her face a mask of anger, desperation, and barely contained hatred. "You want to ruin my life, Marcus?" she said, her voice trembling with fury. "Well, let's see how you like it when your reputation is destroyed. I'll make sure everyone knows what kind of monster you really are. You think you're the victim here? No, you're the abuser." The words hit me like a punch, but I wasn't surprised. This was Chloe's game. She thrived on chaos, on attention. It was the same pattern, just a new angle, the same calculated emotional manipulation. Only now, it was public. She paused, swiping at her eyes like she was trying to hold back tears. But it wasn't the tears that concerned me. It was the phone number at the bottom of the screen, the one for her therapist, the one she'd been using to build this narrative. In the next clip, she was inside, clearly filming herself as she wandered the house in the dark. "He's controlling," she whispered, her voice breaking. "He's always been controlling. I can't do this anymore. He doesn't let me have my own life. He's emotionally abusive. I'm scared." It was all there, her classic move. Manipulate, manipulate, manipulate. Get the audience on her side. Make them feel sorry for her. Make them believe her victim narrative. I froze. The clips started to gain traction. My phone buzzed relentlessly. Calls from my lawyer, from my PR team. They were all aware of what was happening. "Marcus," my lawyer's voice was urgent when I finally picked up. "We need to act quickly. This is spinning out of control. Chloe's posts are gaining traction. We need a counter-narrative ready, and we need to freeze her accounts. Now." I took a deep breath, clicking over to my PR team's group chat, typing out a single message. Handle it. We strike back with evidence. I knew exactly what had to be done, but the weight of it all was already starting to press down on me. My reputation, my carefully curated life, it was all on the line. But I'd learned long ago that chaos could be turned into an opportunity. And this was an opportunity. Chloe wanted to destroy me publicly? Fine. I'll expose the truth before she does. I turned to Isabel, who had been quietly sitting in the living room of my guest house, waiting for me to finish the strategy calls. She had been a quiet force by my side, helping me navigate this war in the shadows, offering me advice. But now, she could see the storm I was walking into. "You okay?" Isabel asked softly when I walked back into the room. I didn't respond immediately. I was already lost in thought, calculating my next move. Chloe thought she could use social media to bring me down, but she didn't know what I had in store. "Marcus," Isabel said, her voice cutting through my thoughts. "You know this is exactly what Chloe wants, right? She thrives on the drama, on being the center of attention. Don't give her the satisfaction of watching you scramble." I nodded, taking a seat across from her, my mind already racing. "I know, but it's all about framing. She's trying to paint me as the villain. We're going to turn this around. I'll show them exactly who the real monster is." Isabel's eyes softened, but I could see the underlying steel in them too. She wasn't just playing along for me. She had her own stake in this. After all, her life was being destroyed by Victor's lies too. "I'll help however I can," she said, her voice firm. "Let's finish this." The next few hours were a blur of planning, phone calls, and finalizing a strategy. Chloe had started the battle, but I wasn't going to let her win. Not now, not ever. By morning, I had everything I needed. My legal team had frozen Chloe's accounts, locked her access to our shared investments, and sent out a statement to the press, one that would be prepared and ready to counter her accusations with cold, hard evidence. I wasn't going to let her manipulate the narrative. She wanted attention? Fine. I'd give it to her, but on my terms. I sat back in my chair and looked at the text my lawyer had sent. "The counter is ready. Public reveal scheduled for noon." The storm had only just begun, and this time, I wasn't going to let Chloe control the narrative. "I'll handle this," I said to Isabel, standing up. "You'll see. We're going to expose her, just like we did with Victor." Isabel gave a small nod, but her eyes lingered on me for a moment longer. "Just remember, Marcus," she said quietly, "this conflict could change everything for you." And she was right. I had already lost more than I could count, but I had one thing left: control, and I would hold on to it until the very end. I didn't expect the rush of satisfaction I felt when the video finally went live. Chloe's carefully constructed facade, her self-assured smile, her well-curated life, all of it came crashing down with 2 minutes of raw, unfiltered truth. I had set the stage perfectly, and now the world would see Chloe for who she really was: a liar, a cheater, and a woman who thought she could manipulate everyone around her. The video began with her own words, captured during one of her many secretive moments, where she had bragged about using me for my wealth. She'd boasted in her own words about how she manipulated me for years, all while playing the devoted wife at home. But the part that hit hardest was when she casually admitted in explicit detail about her affair with Victor, describing me as dull and clueless. The most damning part of the video was when she revealed with an unsettling smirk that the only reason she stayed in our marriage was for the lifestyle, for the money, for the luxury I provided. It was all there. Every word, every admission, everything she had done to undermine me. I watched the view count climb on my phone as the video began to spread. The comments were flooding in, each one more savage than the last. People were appalled, shocked, and disgusted. Chloe's reputation was being torn apart, and I was the one pulling the strings. The video went viral within hours. The backlash was swift and unrelenting. Chloe's social media profiles were bombarded with hate, with people calling her a gold digger, a liar, a fraud. Her carefully constructed image as the perfect wife and mother was shattered beyond repair. By midday, the press had picked up the story. News outlets were calling it one of the biggest betrayals in the business world, not just because of the affair, but because of the damage Chloe had done to her marriage and to her husband. Her infidelity wasn't just personal. It was a calculated, malicious act aimed at undermining the very foundation of our business empire. As I watched the news coverage unfold, I received a message from Victor. It was a public apology, hollow, meaningless, and clearly a result of the pressure he was facing. "I'm sorry for what I've done to Marcus and his family," he wrote in his statement, "but I'll be taking full responsibility for my actions." It was pathetic. Victor had lost everything. Not only had I removed him from our business dealings, but now his reputation was in tatters. His company was facing investigations into his shady deals. His affairs were public knowledge, and there was nothing he could do to salvage his career. His apology was as hollow as the life he had built, but as the dust settled on Victor's apology, something else caught my attention. Isabel. She had filed for divorce just hours before the video went viral, and she was taking half of Victor's assets. She had used my information, my strategy, to dismantle him just as much as I had used it to dismantle her husband's empire. For a brief moment, I thought about the relief that came with reclaiming my control. The satisfaction of seeing both Chloe and Victor brought low was intoxicating. I had won. But then, there was the emptiness. It was strange, unexpected. I had expected victory to feel like a celebration, but instead, it felt hollow. The house was still empty, the business was still a machine churning out profits, but something inside me had shifted. Chloe was gone, Victor was defeated, and Isabel had taken her share. And yet, I felt like I had lost something along the way. What had I truly gained? Was this really worth it? I didn't have the answers yet. But as I looked at the messages flooding in from my colleagues, my friends, and even some strangers celebrating my triumph over betrayal, I realized that while the world thought I had come out on top, I was still questioning everything. The victory wasn't sweet. It wasn't the reward I had imagined. It was just a new reality. A reality that left me staring at the walls of the mansion, alone in the space I had once shared with Chloe, wondering if I had truly won, or if I had just sacrificed everything for the sake of revenge. I received a call from my PR team that evening, confirming that the video had reached millions of views, and the fallout for Chloe was just beginning. The media wanted an exclusive interview. They wanted my side of the story. Everyone was looking to me for answers, for closure, but I didn't have any. I set my phone down, feeling the weight of the situation settle in. Chloe had made sure I couldn't trust anyone. Her betrayal had eroded everything. She had destroyed our relationship, but it wasn't just her. It was everything. The world was watching me, but I wasn't sure I could look back at the person I had become. A few days after Chloe's public meltdown, I sat in my office, staring at my phone. The media frenzy had settled somewhat, but the storm was far from over. Chloe was scrambling for control, trying to cling to any shred of the life she had once known. But I had already won, or so I thought. The package arrived on my desk unexpectedly, a small, plain box with no return address. A part of me wanted to ignore it, but something told me this was more than a random delivery. My heart skipped as I opened it. Inside, there was a flash drive and a single piece of paper with a note scrawled in an unfamiliar hand. "She's using you. Watch carefully." I didn't need to ask who she was. Isabel. The one person I had trusted more than anyone since this mess had started. The one who had helped me pull Victor down. The one who'd been my ally through it all. I had no reason to distrust her. Or so I thought. I plugged the flash drive into my computer, my fingers trembling slightly. The screen flickered for a moment, then a file appeared, an audio recording. It played automatically, and the voice that came through my speakers made my stomach twist. It was Isabel's voice. "Once Marcus is distracted, once he thinks he's won, I'll take what's mine," she said, her tone low but unmistakably clear. "The empire, the assets, everything. I'll make sure Marcus doesn't see it coming. All I need is the right moment to strike." I felt like the ground had been ripped out from under me. I paused the recording, replaying the line over and over again. It sounded just like her, but something felt off. It didn't make sense. Isabel had never shown an ounce of greed, at least not to me. She had always been practical, focused on the end game. But this felt different. I rubbed my eyes, the weight of doubt slowly creeping in. Had I misjudged her? Or was this some elaborate scheme to make me paranoid? Before I could make sense of it, my phone rang. Isabel! My heart skipped again. I wasn't ready to confront her, not yet. But I had no choice. I answered. "Marcus, we need to talk." Her voice was tight, urgent. I leaned back in my chair, trying to gather my thoughts. "Isabel, I just listened to something. A recording. It's about you." She hesitated for a moment, then spoke softly. I know. I was going to explain everything. Was it you on that tape? I asked, my voice cold. Because it sure sounded like you. She didn't deny it. Instead, she took a long breath, as though preparing herself for what was to come. Marcus, please, she said, her voice breaking slightly. That was taken out of context. I never meant those words the way they sounded. She's trying to manipulate you. She's the one behind this. She planted that tape to destroy our alliance. Don't let her poison your mind. Her words echoed in my mind, but something inside me recoiled. I had trusted her, confided in her. We had been allies, bound by shared betrayal and the need for revenge. But now I wasn't sure if I could trust anyone, not even her. Isabel, I said, my voice firm. I've spent years building this empire, fighting tooth and nail for every inch of control. And now I'm supposed to believe that this is all just a misunderstanding? That Chloe somehow manipulated a recording that perfectly matches your voice? There was a long pause before she replied. I can explain everything. I swear, Marcus. But not over the phone. Meet me at the guest house. Let's talk face to face. I hesitated, the weight of her request pulling me in different directions. The room felt colder suddenly, like the walls were closing in on me. But I knew what I had to do. I had to see her. I had to know the truth, whatever it was. Fine, I said, standing up. I'll be there in 20 minutes. I ended the call, still unsure of what I would find. The recording had planted a seed of doubt in my mind, and now I needed to confront Isabel. But I also couldn't shake the feeling that this was exactly what Chloe wanted. She wanted me to question everyone, to turn on those closest to me. She wanted to see me crumble under the weight of paranoia. As I made my way to the guest house, my mind raced through every possibility. Could Isabel be using me? Could she have been playing me from the start, just like Chloe and Victor? The idea gnawed at me, but I had to trust my instincts. Isabel had been my ally, my confidant in this war. But now it felt like the whole world had turned against me. When I arrived, Isabel was already standing by the door, her posture rigid. But there was a nervous energy about her that I hadn't seen before. Marcus, she said, her eyes filled with urgency. I'm glad you came. I know you're upset, but you have to listen to me. Chloe has planted that recording to make you doubt me. You can't let her win. I stared at her for a long moment, the doubt swirling in my chest. Her eyes locked onto mine, and for the first time since we'd started this alliance, I wasn't sure if I could trust her. I want the truth, Isabel, I said quietly, my voice heavy with suspicion. Now? She nodded, taking a deep breath before speaking. Everything I said in that recording, Marcus, it was manipulated. Chloe is playing a game with you, and she knows how to get into your head. She's been doing it for years. I wanted to believe her. I really did. But the voice on that tape, the words, they haunted me. Could I risk trusting her again? I don't know if I can believe you anymore, I said softly, my throat tight. You've made me question everything. Isabel reached out, her hand trembling. Marcus, don't let Chloe poison everything we've worked for. Please. I looked at her, the weight of my decision pressing down on me. Could I trust her? Or had I been played just like Victor? The air between us was thick with tension, and as I stood there, staring at the woman I had once relied on, I realized that the stakes were higher than ever. Chloe's war wasn't just about destroying me, it was about making sure I trusted no one. I turned away from Isabel, unsure of what would come next, but I knew one thing for certain. Trust, once broken, could never be fully repaired, not by anyone. And the worst part? I wasn't sure who, if anyone, I could trust anymore. The weight of the flash drive sat heavy in my hand. I couldn't stop replaying the audio clip over and over, the same haunting words looping in my mind. Isabel's voice had never sounded so cold, so calculating. It didn't make sense. How could she, after everything we'd been through, betray me like this? I'd trusted her. My pulse quickened, a sharp knot forming in my chest. Chloe had orchestrated this. There was no doubt in my mind. She wanted to make sure I trusted no one, not even Isabel, the one person who had helped me destroy Victor, the person who had been my closest ally in this entire war. I could hear Isabel's voice from the recording. Once Marcus is distracted, once he thinks he's won, I'll take what's mine. The empire, the assets, everything. I'll make sure Marcus doesn't see it coming. All I need is the right moment to strike. I closed my eyes, letting the words sink in. Could it be true? Had Isabel been using me all along? Was I a fool, blinded by my need for control? I had no answers, only questions, and an ever-deepening suspicion that everything had been a game from the start. The weight of betrayal settled in, and I felt the world around me tighten, the walls pressing in. My phone buzzed, shattering the silence. Isabel. I didn't want to pick up. I didn't want to hear her voice right now, but I had to. I had no choice. The uncertainty gnawed at me, and I needed to know the truth, no matter how much it tore at me. "Marcus, we need to talk." Isabel's voice came through the phone, tense and urgent. I swallowed hard, my fingers gripping the edge of the desk. "I know what you said. I know about the recording." "What the hell, Isabel?" There was a long pause before she spoke again, quieter now, almost pleading. "Marcus, please. It wasn't what it sounded like. I know how it looks, but I swear, I'm not what you think I am." Her words were too soft, too defensive. She sounded exactly how Chloe wanted her to sound. I was caught in a web of manipulation, and I could feel my grip on reality slipping. "You don't get it," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "The tape, Isabel, it's in your voice. It's your words. How do you explain that?" "I can explain," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "But not like this, not over the phone. Please, Marcus, meet me. I need to see you. We need to talk in person." I clenched my jaw, the tension in my chest unbearable. I could feel the control slipping from my hands. If I met her, I'd be walking into unknown territory. But I had to know the truth. I had to understand if everything I'd worked for, everything I had trusted, was a lie. "Fine," I said, my tone sharp. "But this is your last chance, Isabel. I won't let you manipulate me the way Chloe did." I hung up the phone without waiting for her response, the sound of the dial tone echoing in the silence. The next hour was a blur. My mind was spinning, filled with doubts and questions. How had everything gone so wrong? I had been so careful, so meticulous. Yet here I was, standing on the edge of everything crumbling, unable to trust anyone, not even myself. As I drove to the guest house where Isabel was waiting, the weight of it all threatened to crush me. I'd spent my life building an empire, one that had now been reduced to rubble by betrayal and lies. Was there anyone left I could trust? Or had I made a grave mistake in aligning myself with Isabel, a woman who now seemed as much a part of the problem as the cheaters I'd spent so much time dismantling? I arrived at the guest house in what felt like an eternity, the silence of the night wrapping around me. Isabel was standing by the door, waiting. She didn't smile when she saw me. Instead, her eyes searched mine, a mix of fear and desperation. "Marcus," she began, her voice trembling. "Please, don't let Chloe's poison ruin this. I never meant for it to go this far." I stepped closer, my gaze cold. "Then explain to me why I should believe you. Why shouldn't I think this is just another manipulation?" She reached for my arm, her touch tentative. "I didn't mean what I said on that tape. I swear. I know it sounds terrible, but it wasn't like that. Chloe got to you first, Marcus. She's playing us both. Don't let her win." I pulled my arm away, frustration bubbling to the surface. "You're asking me to trust you again, Isabel. After everything? After that recording? I'm not asking you to trust me blindly. Just let me explain. Please. I didn't betray you, Marcus. I never did." Her words sounded hollow. I wanted to believe her, but the tape, the doubts, it was all too much. I stepped back, rubbing my temples. The air between us felt thick, suffocating. "I need time," I muttered, turning toward the door. "I can't do this right now. I don't know what to think anymore." "Marcus, please!" Isabel's voice cracked with desperation. "Please don't walk away. Don't let Chloe destroy everything." I paused, my hand on the doorknob. I turned slowly, my eyes locking with hers. "I'm not walking away, but I'm not sure I can keep doing this. I'm not sure I can trust you anymore." I left without another word, the weight of the decision pressing down on me. Trust had always been my most valuable asset, and now it was the one thing I couldn't afford. As I drove away, I looked out at the city I had built, the empire I had fought for, the life I had once thought was solid and unshakable, but now it all felt like sand slipping through my fingers. The question that haunted me as I stared at the skyline was simple. Who could I really trust in the end? The city seemed distant, unreachable, and I felt completely isolated. I wasn't just battling Chloe and Victor anymore. I was battling myself, and I wasn't sure who would win.